Hey guys, LevelCap here, and I got to play Battlefield 6 early at the multiplayer reveal event. And today I get to show off some of my gameplay and impressions. First things first, this is a sponsored video. EA flew me out to a capture event to play the game early, and I got to chat it up with some of the devs and talk about game design. It was a ridiculously massive event with hundreds of content creators and producers talking about the game. I've probably been to 100 or so different game reveal events, but this one was one of the largest. Now, before I get into some of the details, I think it's important to keep in mind that I was able to play the game so far at the time of making this video for about 4 hours, and I played on a limited selection of maps and modes. So there's simply no way that I could really weigh in on what the full game will offer because I only got to play a slice of it. In fact, one of the modes that the devs were hyping up but we didn't get to play yet is called Escalation, which apparently plays a lot like Conquest but with a shrinking number of objectives that eventually focus the combat really crazy. I heard several devs say it was actually their favorite mode to play in the game, but sadly we didn't get to play it at the event yet. So what did I get to play so far? Well, a lot of our play sessions took place on two main maps, Siege of Cairo and Liberation Peak. And we cycled through the various game modes from Conquest to break through to smaller modes like Squad Deathmatch. Siege of Cairo is definitely going to be a fan favorite, a densely packed urban environment with stunning visuals and truly intense destruction. It brings in vibes from, say, Strike at Kharkin, but pushes it so much further than those classic maps. I played this one quite a bit on Conquest and Breakthrough. Its roads and back alleys become the major choke points of the map. Apartments lining the streets can provide elevated shooting positions, and getting into a tank on this map can be absolutely devastating. The facades and walls of most buildings can be blown out, so you gotta be careful when taking cover from a tank, as your cover may not actually be tank proof. I was really impressed with this map. It's absolutely going to be a favorite for infantry combat and anyone who can get into a tank or APC on it. It's an excellent showcase of Battlefield's new destruction fidelity. Detailed debris and environmental props and pieces are flying through the air all over the place. It's kind of on another level. From a mechanical standpoint, the destruction feels very similar to some of the previous games where you can knock out walls and eventually collapse structures. But visually, it's just dialed way up, making the destruction feel significantly more realistic. And it has the added effect of making the whole game feel more real. When a stray shell hits a building and it blows out the wall incredibly realistically, and tons of smoke and debris and particle effects hit the map, it just feels more real. In fact, the particles in Battlefield 6 seem to linger longer and create more of a haze and atmosphere of combat. Now, the map Liberation Peak is a little more open. Another beautifully rendered map, it offers a more sniper-friendly habitat with longer sight lines and smaller cobblestone buildings. I didn't play this one on Conquest as much as I would have liked to, but on Breakthrough it provided some great choke points and massive elevation changes. Now, if you watched the multiplayer reveal trailer before watching this video, then you'll have seen some of the other maps that are coming in the game, including a remake of Operation Firestorm, which I couldn't be more excited to play. It even further cements Battlefield 6 as a spiritual successor to Battlefield 3 in my mind. And in general, Battlefield 6's visuals are no slouch. Luckily, I don't really have to tell you how good the game looks. You can just watch the gameplay and see for yourself, but the performance while playing also felt quite stable. I wasn't tracking my FPS numbers while I played, but for a build that's still a few months out, I wasn't experiencing any noticeable dips or struggles, which is very encouraging for the overall optimization. And actually, on that note, I was able to chat with some of the devs on the project who discussed the different approach to making Battlefield 6, which involved getting the game to a playable state from the earliest possible point and then developing the game while simultaneously testing it in-engine with every new feature and addition. This not only helped them figure out some of the performance stuff sooner, but it also helped them dial in gameplay mechanics much earlier and get more time to refine them. It seems like this new approach is spearheaded by some of the new leadership on the project. Now, let's talk about the feeling of the game. Just like any Battlefield title, this is designed to be accessible from the start. And jumping in, I felt right at home. Player movement, aiming, shooting, the user interface, it all felt familiar, but also updated. In fact, David Sirlin spoke at the event about redoing the weapon system from the ground up with this game to perfect the tech, but they made sure to make it feel like a Battlefield game nonetheless. So on the surface, it might feel like you're just playing a slightly updated weapon system for a Battlefield game, but under the hood, it is completely different. Gun recoil felt quite manageable, headshots are still king, and this game doesn't put giant muzzle flash in front of your face obstructing your targets during a firefight, which I appreciate Battlefield keeping the firefights, well, visible. The sound design is still peak DICE weapon audio. The rest of the gameplay audio also sounded great from what I could hear, but I am much more interested to hear this game when I'm not in a giant room full of shouting content creators. Now, a much appreciated quality of life update is the weapon customization system. Weapons have a point system now where each gun has an allotment of attachment points that can't be exceeded. Though this allotment seems to be quite generous, allowing you to replace barrels, muzzles, magazines, optic, lasers, anything you could think of, you can more or less swap it out on your gun. It's a nice system, but what I actually really liked about it was that it had stats. The game has the actual weapon data on display next to the weapon. When you hit the C button, it'll actually expand the data readout to show how many milliseconds an attachment adds to your ADS time. This is so much nicer than the ambiguous bars showing an accuracy value changing, but not really understanding what it was doing. Previously, players had to basically data mine the weapon data and then put it into spreadsheets so that they could better understand how weapon attachments and weapon mechanics actually worked. Now, a lot of that can be understood by just looking at the user interface. And it's not overwhelming, and it seems fairly straightforward where even the average user could look at the stats and understand more or less what kind of attachments they might want. Now, class-wise, I had a chance to play with all the classes, test out all the weapons, and even try out the open weapon system. It's hard to get too deep in the feedback after only 4 hours of playing, but I do think I still prefer a closed weapon system. But nonetheless, classes are still one of those things where I feel like I need to spend a lot more time with them before I have a good idea on their overall balance. There are a few interesting changes to the class fundamentals though. Support is interesting in that it can now heal and rearm you through its basic supply crate, so you're kind of the go-to for all of your squad's needs. The assault class is quite powerful in that it can carry 2 primary weapons. I gotta say, having a shotgun for close quarters or a DMR for ranged engagements is actually kind of awesome. It makes you super flexible. Recon is still quite useful for spotting, spawning on spawn beacons, having C4 to blow up vehicles or take down buildings. It's still a great class. The Engineer, of course, comes with its repair tool and rocket launchers, which are very satisfying to use against tanks. The classes more or less fit their classic roles with just a few tweaks here and there, but there's a lot more depth to them that I don't think was unlocked in the demo that we were playing. There's a whole class upgrade system that increases your in-round abilities that I didn't get to explore as much as I would like to either, but I came away from my play session today impressed and even more excited about the game than I had been before I played it, which is great. That means DICE is on the right path, and they need a win here, and I think Battlefield 6 is absolutely going to give it to them. I spent a lot of the day teamed up with Drewski, Big Fry, and Karmika in a squad. It felt like the good old times, PTFOing, calling out to each other, reviving, trying to work together as a squad, and outflank and outsmart our opponents. It plays like a Battlefield game. We can do all the classic things that we want to do in a Battlefield game, but it is in a much more modern and fresh feeling package. Now, all that said, I've truly only played such a small slice of the game. It's impossible to weigh in on what the total experience is going to be like. In fact, nobody can do that at this point. But it's left me extremely excited and eager to see what else DICE has in store. What I've played so far is really good, so I can only hope that what I haven't played is also good. The next few months leading up to launch are going to be fun, and I can't wait to get into the open beta at home and really put this game through its paces. Let me know your thoughts on what you've seen from Battlefield 6 so far. And up next, check out my live stream where I'll be playing the game with hopefully some additional maps and content. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.